What if I told you that some of the darkest moments in human history didn't happen on battlefields, but in laboratories? Behind locked doors, away from the public eye, people were turned into test subjects, poisoned, infected, drugged, and broken. These weren't accidents. They were experiments designed by governments and scientists who believed human suffering was a tool of discovery. This is the story of the most horrifying human experiments of all time.
Soviet poison labs, death by science. In the 1920s, under Joseph Stalin's brutal regime, the Soviet Union built a secret lab known only as Laboratory 1. Here, scientists were ordered to perfect undetectable poisons that could kill without leaving a trace. Prisoners, political dissidents, enemies of the state, anyone who crossed the regime were brought in as test subjects. They were given poisoned food, drinks, even medicine, told they were receiving treatment. Instead, they were part of a deadly trial. One poison, nicknamed C2, killed within minutes. Another left victims gasping for air as their organs shut down, while doctors stood by, clipboards in hand. To the Soviets, these weren't people, they were data points, and the findings would feed directly into Cold War assassinations, where poison became one of the KGB's favorite weapons. Nazi experiments, medicine turned to horror. If the Soviet labs were terrifying, the Nazi medical experiments in World War II were pure evil. In concentration camps like Auschwitz and Dachau, doctors in white coats used prisoners as guinea pigs in the name of science. Victims were frozen alive to study hypothermia. Others were infected with malaria, typhus, or tuberculosis just to see how long they could survive. Some were forced into pressure chambers until their lungs collapsed, simulating high-altitude flight. To the most infamous of all was Josef Mengele, the angel of death. Obsessed with twins, he injected dyes into children's guise, performed surgeries without anesthesia, and killed simply to conduct autopsies. These weren't experiments, they were acts of sadistic cruelty, carried out under the false flag of medical research.
Unit 731. Japan's hidden atrocity. While the Nazis committed horrors in Europe, Imperial Japan was running its own nightmare in China. Unit 731, a secret military program, carried out some of the most disturbing experiments ever recorded. Prisoners of war and civilians were vivisected, cut open without anesthesia so doctors could watch organs fail in real time. Others were deliberately infected with plague, anthrax, or cholera, sometimes through contaminated water, or even aerial bombs filled with fleas. People were exposed to extreme cold until their limbs froze solid, then thawed again, over and over, just to study frostbite. Women were raped and impregnated so doctors could experiment on pregnancies and newborns. By the end of World War II, tens of thousands had died in Unit 731's labs. And yet, after the war, many of its leaders escaped punishment because the US wanted their data for its own bioweapons program. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study, Betrayal in America. Not all atrocities happened in secret wartime labs. Some took place in plain sight, inside the United States. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service began the Tuskegee Syphilis Study in Alabama. Hundreds of poor black men with syphilis were told they were receiving free medical care. In reality, they were denied treatment so doctors could study how the disease progressed when left untreated. Even after penicillin became the cure in the 1940s, the men were kept in the dark. They grew sicker, passed the disease to wives and children, and many died, all while government doctors watched. This was not just an experiment. It was a betrayal of trust, targeting a vulnerable community that already faced deep systemic racism. The study continued for 40 years, only ending after journalists exposed it in 1972. The fallout was massive. Public outrage forced the U.S. to reform medical ethics, creating laws requiring informed consent and oversight. But for the families of Tuskegee, the damage was permanent.
MKUltra, the CIA's mind control program. While the public reeled from Tuskegee, the CIA was running another chilling project in secret. It was called MKUltra, a Cold War program designed to test whether drugs, hypnosis, and psychological torture could control the human mind. The weapon of choice was LSD. CIA agents dosed unsuspecting soldiers, prisoners, psychiatric patients, and even random citizens. Some had terrifying bad trips that left them permanently traumatized. Other experiments were even darker. In hidden safe houses, sex workers, secretly on the CIA payroll, lured men in, drugged them, and researchers filmed from behind two-way mirrors. The idea was to discover the perfect truth serum, or even create a real-life Manchurian candidate. But the program left behind a trail of broken lives, suicides, and mental collapse. When MKUltra was exposed in the 1970s, the CIA destroyed most of the records. We'll never know the full scale of what was done. Conclusion: what these experiments teach us. From Soviet poisons to Nazi death camps, from Japan's Unit 731 to Tuskegee and MKUltra, one theme runs through all these horrors. When human beings are treated as tools, ethics vanish, and science becomes a weapon. These experiments remind us that progress without morality isn't progress at all. It's cruelty dressed up in the language of research. Today, strict ethical codes, review boards, and international agreements exist to prevent these horrors from happening again. But history warns us, vigilance is everything. Because the moment we forget, the moment we allow secrecy and power to override human dignity, the nightmare can return.